There's something magical about a sleepover when you're a kid. The whispered secrets, the midnight snacks, the flashlight games that stretch long past bedtime. But sometimes, the night doesn't end in laughter. Sometimes, the games go too far. Sometimes, the stories stop being stories. These are 5 true childhood nightmares. 5 sleepovers that started innocent and ended in horror. Story 1. The Game of Candles. The night began like every other middle school sleepover. Pizza boxes stacked in the corner, soda cans half finished, and a living room scattered with pillows and laughter. There were 5 of them that night. Chloe, Mia, Ava, Lily, and Brooke. They were 12, that perfect age between innocence and curiosity, when the world still felt like a game, but the shadows started to look back. Chloe's house was old, creaky, and full of the kind of mystery that made it perfect for a sleepover. Her parents were gone for the weekend, leaving her older brother upstairs playing video games, half listening to their noise. Outside, rain drummed softly on the windows, and the wind rattled the old oak tree that leaned too close to the house. By midnight, the movies were over, the popcorn stale, and the energy of sugar and laughter began to fade into something else. That teenage boredom that always seems to summon bad ideas. It was Mia who suggested it first. Let's play the game of candles. Chloe frowned. What's that? Mia's voice dropped low, like she was reciting something she shouldn't. My cousin told me about it. You light 5 candles in a circle. You turn off all the lights. And you each say your name out loud, but you can't speak after that. Then, you ask the game one question. If the candle flickers, it means something answered. Brooke laughed. So, basically a dollar store Ouija board. Mia shook her head. No. It's worse. You can't blow out the candles until the game lets you. And if you do, it doesn't end. For a moment, the room was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator in the next room. Then Ava rolled her eyes and stood. Whatever. Let's do it. I'm bored of TikTok anyway. Chloe hesitated, but she didn't want to be the scared one. So they gathered 5 candles from the kitchen drawer, mismatched ones that smelled faintly of vanilla and lemon, and set them up in a circle on the living room rug. The lights went out, leaving only the orange flicker of wax and flame reflecting off their faces. They sat cross-legged around the circle. The air grew heavy, not cold, but thick, like the house was holding its breath. Mia spoke first. You can only say your name once. Then ask your question. If you laugh or break the circle, it's over. The girls nodded, the giggles fading. Mia started. My name is Mia. She looked at her candle. Is anyone here with us? For a few seconds, nothing. Then the flame bent sideways, a small whisper of air brushing past her face. Brooke smirked. Probably the vent. Then Ava said, My name is Ava. What happens if we stop playing before it ends? Her flame flickered, once, twice, then went still again. Lily bit her lip. My name is Lily. Are you? She hesitated, eyes darting to Mia. Are you good? The candle nearest her sputtered violently, as if someone had blown on it, but there was no breath, no sound. It nearly went out, then steadied again, taller than before. Chloe's turn came. My name is Chloe. Are you in this room? All 5 candles flared, just for a second, the flames stretching higher, throwing long shadows across the walls. Ava gasped, and the flame nearest her snapped, a tiny spark flying off the wick. Mia whispered, Don't talk. Then Brooke, trying to sound brave. My name is Brooke. What do you want? Nothing moved at first. Then, slowly, the flame in front of her began to dim, shrinking to a weak orange glow, until it vanished completely. The room went dark. Someone screamed, short and sharp, and Mia's voice cut through the dark. Don't move. Don't break the circle. The darkness was absolute. Only 4 candles now flickered weakly, barely illuminating their pale faces. The air felt colder. Chloe's skin prickled with goosebumps. Then came the sound, soft, deliberate footsteps from the corner of the room. Brooke's candle was out. That corner. Lily whimpered. Mia, is this part of the game? Mia didn't answer. Her face was white, eyes fixed on the empty space beside Brooke. A shape moved there. Just a shadow at first, darker than the rest, rising slowly like something standing up. The air shifted again, like the pressure before a storm. Then a whisper. Low. Male. Close. Whose turn is next? Ava screamed and bolted backward, knocking over her candle. Flame hit carpet, sputtered, and died. Mia shouted, "No! Don't let them go out." The lights from the remaining candles stretched across their terrified faces. The figure was gone now, but the sound wasn't. Slow breathing, right behind them. Chloe grabbed Mia's arm. "End it." "How do we end it?" "You can't," Mia stammered. "Not until it says so." Lily stood up, sobbing, and ran for the light switch. The moment her foot crossed the circle, every remaining candle went out. Darkness swallowed everything. And then, silence. No breathing. No footsteps. Just the hum of the refrigerator again, somewhere far away, like the world had moved on without them. When the overhead light finally flicked on, Chloe's brother stood in the doorway, confused. "What the hell are you guys doing?" "It smells like smoke." The girls were scattered around the room, pale and shaking. The candles were still there, burnt down to puddles of wax. Only one was missing, Brooke's. "Brooke?" Chloe asked. But Brooke wasn't in the room. They searched the house. Upstairs, downstairs, even outside under the porch light. No sign of her. Her shoes still by the couch. Her phone still charging. The police came later that night, thinking maybe she'd run away. But they never found her. A week passed. Then two. And then Chloe's mom called her into the kitchen one morning. "Honey, what's this doing here?" She held up a candle, small, burnt almost to the base, that she'd found under Chloe's bed. The wax was melted unevenly, and at its center, embedded deep inside, was a single black fingernail. Chloe dropped it. The moment it hit the floor, the flame, somehow still burning, flared once more, even without a wick. And from somewhere inside that whisper of smoke, a voice murmured, faint, distant, but unmistakably Brooks, "Don't blow it out." Story 2. The Girl in the Sleeping Bag. The night it happened was supposed to be perfect. 12-year-old Jamie had been planning her birthday sleepover for weeks. Invitations written on glittery cards, snacks lined up on the kitchen counter, and a stack of horror DVDs she wasn't really supposed to have. Her mom said she could invite 4 friends, and by 6 p.m., the living room was a chaos of sleeping bags, junk food, and shrieking laughter. There was Mia, loud and brave. Tessa, quiet but always smiling. Haley, the prankster. And Grace, the new girl, soft-spoken and pale, the one Jamie barely knew but had invited out of pity after hearing she didn't get asked to many parties. Jamie's mom gave them the usual warnings. No Ouija boards, no sneaking outside, no staying up past 2. Before heading upstairs, the girls promised, knowing they'd break all 3 rules before midnight. The storm outside started after dark. Rain lashed the windows. Thunder growled far away. It made everything feel exciting, that perfect cozy chaos where every flash of lightning made them giggle harder. They huddled in a circle of blankets, telling ghost stories. Then Grace spoke for the first time that night. Her voice was small. "Can I tell one too?" The others nodded eagerly. Grace's eyes reflected the flickering TV light as she whispered, "When I was little, I went to a sleepover too. But the girl hosting it, she didn't wake up in the morning. They said she suffocated in her sleeping bag. The police called it an accident. But I saw her face before they took her away. Her eyes were open. She wasn't suffocating. She was staring at something behind me." The thunder rumbled again. For a moment, no one spoke. Haley forced a laugh. "That's so fake." Grace smiled faintly. "Maybe." Then she zipped herself up inside her sleeping bag, pulling it over her head. "Let's see who can last the longest like this." The others groaned, but one by one, they followed, turning it into a game. They lay side by side in the dark, zipped tight, pretending to be corpses. "Whoever unzips first is a chicken," Mia said. The room fell into muffled giggles and the sound of the storm outside. Seconds stretched, then a minute, then longer. Someone started breathing too fast, short, panicked gasps. It was Tessa. She yanked her zipper open. "Okay, I'm done. It's hot in there." She laughed nervously, sitting up. "Chicken," Haley shouted from inside her cocoon. "Whatever." Tessa grabbed her soda. "You guys are crazy." But the laughter died as another sound joined the storm, a slow rustling. Someone was still moving inside their sleeping bag. "Grace, you win." Jamie said, unzipping hers. No answer. The rustling continued, slow, dragging, like something crawling. Grace. Jamie stood and looked down. Grace's sleeping bag wasn't in the same spot anymore. It had shifted, halfway across the carpet, closer to the window. Okay, this isn't funny. Mia unzipped hers and sat up, frowning. Grace, seriously, stop crawling around. The bag twitched again. A faint scraping sound came from inside, like nails on fabric. Then, thump. The entire bag jerked violently once, and went still. The girls froze. Only the sound of the rain filled the silence. Jamie took a hesitant step closer. Grace. No answer. She reached down and touched the fabric. It was cold. Too cold. Grace, are you okay? The zipper started moving, slowly, from the inside. The others leaned in, expecting Grace's pale face to pop out and laugh at them. But what slid out wasn't a face. It was a hand. Gray, limp, and stiff like wax. The nails were long, cracked and blackened at the edges. Jamie screamed and stumbled back. The bag tipped over. Something heavy rolled halfway out, a head of long black hair tangled in the zipper. But it wasn't Grace. The skin was decayed, stretched thin like old paper, the eyes cloudy white and open wide. Tessa vomited on the carpet. Haley bolted for the door, screaming for Jamie's mom. Upstairs, the lights flicked on. Jamie's mom came running down. What's going on? When she saw the bag, she froze. The body, if it even was one, was gone. Only the empty, crumpled sleeping bag remained, damp with something dark seeping through the fabric. The police came. They found nothing. No footprints, no body, no sign of forced entry. Just one detail that no one could explain. The sleeping bag wasn't Jamie's. It wasn't Grace's either. None of the girls owned it. It was old, frayed, and covered in faint initials burned into the tag, Yem. 2 days later, Jamie asked her mom if she'd heard from Grace. Her mom frowned. Who? Grace. From my party. Her mom's face went pale. Jamie. Honey, there were only 4 names on the list. Jamie pulled out her phone, scrolling through the photos they'd taken that night. There they were, 4 smiling girls in sleeping bags, faces lit by the TV glow. But at the very edge of the frame, where the 5th sleeping bag should have been, there was only a dark, stretched shape, like a shadow caught mid-crawl, reaching toward them. That night, as Jamie lay in bed, she heard the faint hiss of a zipper. Then a whisper, just beside her ear. Your turn. Story 3, The Basement Sleepover. The rule was simple, never sleep in the basement. That's what Emma's parents always said when she was little. You can play down there, her mom would warn, but never stay down there overnight. When she asked why, they would just smile and change the subject. By the time she was 14, Emma thought the rule was stupid. The basement wasn't scary, it was cool. Her dad had turned it into a kind of game room, with a big couch, a dartboard, and a flat-screen TV. It even had a mini fridge. The perfect place for a sleepover. So when she invited her best friends, Chloe, Riley, and Sarah, for a summer weekend, Emma had one plan. They were finally going to spend the night in the basement. Her parents were gone that weekend for a wedding out of town, and her older brother, Luke, was upstairs playing video games, too busy to care. They carried their sleeping bags down the creaky wooden stairs, laughing and teasing each other about the ghosts in the basement. The air was cooler down there, and the lights flickered for just a second before coming on fully. Creepy but cozy, Chloe said, unrolling her sleeping bag on the carpet. They watched movies, ate popcorn, and stayed up until almost midnight before the power flickered again. Storm must be coming, Sarah said, glancing at the tiny basement window. Thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance. The lights steadied. They went back to watching their movie, an old horror film about a haunted house. It was funny at first, but about halfway through, the basement lights started dimming again, lower this time. Then the TV turned itself off. Okay, Luke, Emma shouted, rolling her eyes. Not funny. No answer. Chloe picked up a flashlight from the shelf. Maybe a breaker tripped? Emma nodded. The fuse box is in the back room. The back room. Even saying it made her stomach tighten a little. The back room wasn't really part of the finished basement. It was an older section, separated by a heavy wooden door. Her dad always kept it locked, though Emma knew where the spare key was hidden. They'd only gone in once before, when the plumber needed access to some old pipes. The air back there was different, colder, heavier. The walls were bare concrete, and there was an old wooden chair in the corner that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. "Okay," Emma said, trying to sound brave. "I'll just reset the fuse." But when they reached the door, the key wasn't where it should have been. "Did you move it?" Riley asked. Emma shook her head. "No. It should be right here." Sarah frowned. "Then how are you gonna?" The door creaked. It wasn't locked anymore. The air that drifted out was cold enough to make their breath visible. Chloe laughed nervously. "Wow, that's not weird at all." Emma swallowed hard and stepped inside, flashlight shaking in her hand. The beam landed on the fuse box, and then on something else. A shape. In the far corner. At first, she thought it was just a pile of boxes. But as she moved closer, she saw what it really was, a sleeping bag. Old and torn, the fabric stained dark at the bottom, as if soaked long ago. Next to it sat a cracked ceramic bowl and a half-melted candle. "Who would even?" A sound interrupted her. A whisper. Very faint. "It's cold down here." Emma froze. "Did you hear that?" Riley's voice trembled. "Yeah." The whisper came again, closer this time. "You're not supposed to stay." Emma whipped the flashlight toward the far corner, but the beam caught nothing. Only dust. They ran back to the main room, slamming the door behind them. The lights flickered back on, as if nothing had happened. Everyone was pale and shaking. "Okay," Sarah said. "That's enough. We're sleeping upstairs." "Yeah," Emma agreed. "Definitely." They gathered their stuff, but when Emma tried to climb the stairs, the door wouldn't open. It was locked from the other side. "Luke!" she screamed, pounding on it. No answer. "Luke, open the door." Still nothing. Then the light bulbs popped, one by one. The basement fell into darkness. "Flashlight," Chloe gasped. Emma turned it on, and the beam flickered wildly. For just a second, it caught something moving across the far wall. A shadow. Not cast by any of them. Something crawling. Slowly. On all fours. "Emma," Riley whispered, "someone's down here." The shadow stretched long and thin, its limbs bending wrong, like it didn't understand how to move right. Then it spoke. The same voice they'd heard before. "You're not supposed to stay." The flashlight went out completely. Screams filled the dark. Emma stumbled backward, tripping over a sleeping bag, her own. Her hand brushed something wet. It wasn't water. It was thick. Sticky. She turned the flashlight back on, just for a second, and saw it. The old sleeping bag from the back room was now right beside hers. And something inside it was moving. The zipper began to slide down, slow and deliberate. "Don't," Chloe whispered, backing away. "Don't look at it." But Emma couldn't help it. When the zipper opened, a face stared out, gray skin, eyes rolled white, lips dry and cracked. It looked like a teenage girl. But not any of them. She looked familiar. Emma realized why. There was an old photo hanging upstairs in the hallway. Her dad and a young girl about Emma's age, smiling at the lake. The girl in the photo was his sister. Emma's aunt. The one who died years before. The one her parents never talked about. Emma's hand trembled as she whispered, "Aunt Lydia?" The thing in the sleeping bag blinked slowly, head twitching. "It's cold down here." Then it lunged. The flashlight shattered. Screams echoed through the basement. The door burst open at last, and Luke ran down, finding the lights flickering wildly. The girls were huddled in a corner, shaking. Emma's hand was bleeding from where she'd fallen on broken glass. But the old sleeping bag was gone. When their parents returned, they blamed it on panic and shadows. "You probably scared yourselves," her mom said gently. "There's no ghost. Just your imagination." But when her dad went downstairs later to clean up, he froze at the fuse box. There, carved into the concrete wall, were 5 sets of initials, freshly scratched. EM, CW, RB, SD, and one that made his breath stop cold. LM. Lydia Martin. His sister's name. He looked up and swore he heard a zipper closing in the dark. Story 4. The Doll from the Attic. The house had been in Mia's family for 3 generations. A tall, creaking Victorian place at the end of a quiet street, with peeling wallpaper drafty windows, and an attic no one ever went into. Her grandmother used to say the attic was where old things go to sleep, but when Mia was 10, she discovered that some things up there hadn't stayed asleep at all. It started when she invited her two best friends, Lacey and Nora, for a summer sleepover. The three of them had done this a dozen times before, but this was their first time at Mia's house. They arrived with pillows, candy, and a list of scary movies to watch. It was supposed to be fun, innocent, just another night of laughter and whispered secrets. Except the house didn't feel innocent. Even in daylight, it was too quiet. The air smelled faintly of dust and perfume, like someone had been there just moments before. As they climbed the old staircase, the steps groaned beneath their feet. "Your house is kinda creepy," Nora said, half joking. Mia shrugged. "Yeah, Grandma's house always was. But the attic's the weirdest part. My mom told me never to go up there." Lacey grinned. "Which means we definitely have to go up there." Mia laughed nervously. "You don't understand. Grandma said the attic was haunted." "Haunted how?" Nora asked, setting down her sleeping bag. Mia hesitated. She said when she was little, she used to play up there with a doll. A porcelain one. But one day, the doll started talking, saying things only Grandma would know. She locked it away after that and never went back. The girls exchanged uneasy glances. "Maybe it's still up there," Lacey said, half teasing, half curious. Mia forced a smile. "Maybe." That night, after pizza and a few movies, the house settled into silence. The air turned cold. Lacey was the first to suggest they sneak upstairs. "Come on," she whispered, holding up a flashlight. "We'll just peek." Mia's stomach twisted. She wanted to say no, but curiosity won. The attic door was at the end of the upstairs hallway, behind a faded tapestry. The handle was old brass, icy to the touch. When they turned it, it creaked open, releasing a gust of air that smelled of rot and old perfume. They climbed the narrow staircase, the wooden steps protesting under their feet. At the top, the beam of the flashlight revealed a sea of forgotten things. Boxes, broken furniture, trunks covered in dust. Cobwebs hung like curtains from the beams. And then Lacey gasped. There, sitting in the corner, propped against an old trunk, was a porcelain doll. Its face was cracked, one glass eye slightly misaligned. It wore a lace dress that might once have been white, now yellowed with age. "Okay," Mia whispered, heart pounding. "We saw it. Let's go." But Lacey stepped closer. "It's kind of beautiful, in a creepy way." She reached out and brushed dust from the doll's cheek. Its head tilted slightly, the eye glinting in the flashlight beam. Nora shivered. "I swear it just moved." They laughed it off, but Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the doll was watching them as they descended back into the hall. Later, when they returned to Mia's room, the house felt colder. The power flickered once, then stabilized. They went to sleep around midnight. Sometime after 2 a.m., Mia woke up. The sound that pulled her from sleep was faint, but distinct. A soft tapping, like porcelain clicking against wood. She turned her head toward the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Lacey," she whispered. No answer. The tapping grew louder, coming from the hallway. Then, without warning, her bedroom door creaked open an inch. Something small rolled across the threshold and stopped at her feet. The flashlight on the nightstand flickered to life for just a moment, long enough for her to see it. The doll. Its cracked face stared up at her, the faintest trace of a smile forming where there hadn't been one before. Mia screamed, jolting Lacey and Nora awake. "What the hell?" Nora gasped, grabbing the flashlight. "I didn't bring it." Mia cried. "It was upstairs." They all stared at the doll. Then, its head turned. Just slightly. Enough to make them run. They bolted from the room, down the stairs, hearts hammering. The flashlight beam danced wildly across the walls. "What do we do?" Lacey hissed. "We lock it back up," Mia said. "In the attic." But when they turned to go back upstairs, the attic door was already open. The staircase leading up was completely dark. "Mia," Nora whispered, trembling. "Something's up there." Then they heard it. Soft, childlike laughter drifting down from above. "Come play." Mia froze. The voice was unmistakable. It sounded exactly like her grandmother. "Come play, sweetheart. It's lonely up here." She took a hesitant step toward the stairs, her friends whispering for her to stop. But something deeper than fear pulled at her. The flashlight flickered again, and for a split second, she saw a figure standing at the top of the stairs. A little girl in an old-fashioned dress, holding the doll. Her grandmother's face. Young, perfect, smiling. Then the girl whispered, "You weren't supposed to wake me." The lights exploded. The house shook with a sound like thunder. The next thing Mia remembered was her father shaking her awake the next morning. The girls were still there, huddled in a corner, pale and shivering. The attic door was closed. Everything looked normal, except for one thing. On Mia's nightstand sat the doll. Clean, polished, and new. Its cracks were gone. Its dress gleamed white again. Her father frowned. "I didn't know you had one of your grandmother's dolls." Mia couldn't speak. That night, when she was alone, she heard whispering again, faint, from the ceiling above her. She climbed the attic steps slowly, flashlight trembling in her hand. The air was freezing. The doll sat in the middle of the floor. Beside it was a photo, an old, yellowed picture of her grandmother as a child. And standing next to her in the photo was another little girl. The second girl's face was smudged, almost erased, but the faint outline of her dress was the same as Mia's. As she stared, the doll's head turned toward her. And from the shadows, the voice came again, soft, sweet, childlike. "Now we're family." Then the attic door slammed shut behind her. Story 5, The Last Sleepover. It was supposed to be one final night of childhood fun. The kind where you stay up too late, laugh until your stomach hurts, and whisper secrets under blankets until you fall asleep to the sound of rain on the roof. For Emily, Claire, and Zoe, this sleepover was special. It was their last before high school. Everything was changing, and this was their way of freezing time, of pretending that growing up wasn't creeping closer with every sunrise. Claire's house had always been their go-to sleepover spot. It was big, with a basement that felt like a world of its own. Posters of pop stars and fairy lights covered the walls, and there was always a stash of snacks hidden behind the couch. But that night felt different. Maybe it was the storm rolling in, or the way Claire's parents had gone out for the night, leaving the three girls completely alone. They started with the usual makeup, gossip, dares. Zoe dared Claire to call her crush. Claire turned beet red but did it anyway, stammering something about homework before hanging up mid-laugh. The storm outside cracked the sky open in flashes, thunder shaking the windows. Emily tried to joke it off, but each flicker of lightning seemed to pull their shadows longer across the walls. By midnight, the power went out. The TV went black. The fairy lights blinked out one by one, leaving the room swallowed in darkness. Claire fetched a few candles from the kitchen, their flames trembling as the wind howled outside. "Creepy mood, huh?" Zoe teased, pretending to be a ghost. But the joke fell flat when a soft thump echoed from upstairs. They froze. Claire frowned. Probably the wind. But another thump came. Closer. Slow. Measured. Like footsteps. Emily grabbed her phone to use the flashlight, but the battery was dead. Zoe rolled her eyes, though her voice shook. "It's an old house. It creaks." Still, when they heard the sound again, this time directly above them, no one moved. Then, faintly, a whisper. At first it was impossible to tell what it said, just a low murmur. But then the words formed clearly. "Come upstairs." Claire's mouth fell open. "Did you guys hear that?" The whisper came again. "Come upstairs." The three of them clutched each other's hands, too scared to breathe. Zoe tried to laugh, but her voice broke. "Someone's messing with us." "Who?" Emily whispered. "Your parents aren't home." A soft creak from the staircase silenced them all. They turned their heads toward the basement door, the candlelight flickering across it. It was slightly ajar. Something dark moved just beyond the gap, too tall to be one of them, too slow to be a draft. The door began to open wider, inch by inch. Zoe grabbed a pillow like it could protect her. Claire reached for the nearest candle and whispered, "We should go." Now, they crept toward the door, the light shaking in their hands. The sound had stopped, but the silence was worse, so heavy it pressed against their ears. As Claire reached for the doorknob, the door slammed shut on its own. The girl screamed, the candle slipping from Claire's hand and going out. In the sudden darkness, something whispered from the top of the stairs again, louder this time, right above them. "Come upstairs." Emily's voice trembled. "We need to get out of here." Claire nodded, fumbling in the dark for her phone. No signal. Zoe grabbed her arm. "There's a window by the laundry room. We can climb out." They stumbled toward it, knocking into furniture in the pitch-black room. The thunder outside drowned out their footsteps. Emily found the window and tugged at it. It wouldn't budge. It had been painted shut for years. She looked back over her shoulder. In the flicker of lightning, she saw something on the stairs. A shadow. It wasn't moving like a person. It shifted wrong, like smoke trying to take shape. Long, bony fingers gripped the railing, curling over it. Then, slowly, the head tilted toward her. No eyes, just two hollow pits reflecting the candlelight from below. Emily screamed. Zoe spun around, shining her phone's dying light up the stairs. For one instant, the shape was there, tall, hunched, watching. Then the light went out, and all they heard was breathing. Deep, slow breathing. Coming closer. The girls backed up against the far wall, huddled together. Claire whispered a prayer. The thing on the stairs moved again, step by step, each one creaking louder than the last. And then, nothing. Silence. Zoe whispered, "Did it stop?" No one answered. Then, from right beside them, a voice whispered, "Come upstairs." All three screamed and bolted for the basement door. It was locked from the outside. They pounded on it, shouting for help. The air grew cold, their breath visible. Behind them, the candles flickered back to life on their own. The flames didn't burn orange, they burned blue. And in the dim light, something was written on the wall. Scrawled in dripping black letters, "You shouldn't have stayed." Claire turned to run, but Emily stopped her. "Wait. Look." At the base of the stairs lay a photo. It was old, faded, the edges curled. In it were three little girls at a sleepover, wearing pajamas, smiling at the camera. Behind them stood a dark figure in the corner. The girls looked closer. The three children in the picture weren't strangers. They were them. Zoe's voice cracked. "That's impossible." But the photo was dated 10 years ago, long before they had even met. Suddenly, the basement lights flickered back on. Everything looked normal again. The door was unlocked. Their parents' car lights flashed in the driveway above. They ran upstairs, gasping, trembling. Claire's parents opened the door, confused. "What happened?" Claire couldn't speak. She just held out the photograph. Her mother took one look and went pale. "Where did you find this?" she whispered. "It was in the basement," Emily said. "Why?" Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "Because this picture was taken before we moved here. The last family who lived in this house had 3 daughters. They died during a sleepover. There was a fire in the basement. No one ever found out how it started." The girls stood frozen. The thunder outside had stopped, but the air still hummed with static. That night, none of them slept. A week later, Emily went to school, trying to forget it all. But when she opened her locker, a photograph fell out. The same picture, only now, the dark figure was gone. And behind her locker door, faintly scratched into the metal, were the words, "You shouldn't have stayed." The police came, investigated, found nothing. They said it was a prank. But the girls knew what they had seen. They never spoke about that night again. Years later, Claire sold the house and moved away. The new family that moved in had a daughter named Lily. On her first night in her new room, during her first sleepover, her mother came to say goodnight. The candles on her nightstand flickered blue. And from the basement, faintly, a whisper rose through the vents, "Come upstairs." The storm began again that night. And no one ever heard from Lily or her friends again.